Hello, everyone, and welcome to Purple Curtain Podcast. This is John,
Just Rusty?
and today we're going to be talking about Nogizaka 46's graduated members. This was an idea that Rusty had when he was talking to people on Twitter, so if you'd like to say a few words about that.
Sure. Yeah, so recently on Twitter, it seems like there's a lot of new Nogi fans, and when we interact sometime, graduate member comes up, and, people don't really know about them since, they're from an era that they haven't got to experience, and when you watch content, you're usually watching the new content, and older content isn't as readily available or accessible. So sometimes it's a little bit hard to learn about these old members. So I thought it'd be a great idea if we ask to more veteran fans, we can talk about a bit about the older members and maybe introduce them to people.
Yeah, although Rusty might be talking a bit more than me this week because, especially with the members who sort of like graduated before around 2014. I don't really know much about those members either.
Mhm.
But we'll start with the first generation member that graduated was Yamamoto Honoka. Do you know anything about her, Rusty? Because I sadly don't even recognize the name.
No worries. In fact, I'm going to talk about her as well as Yoshimoto Ayaka. I'll talk about them together.
Right.
And the reason for that is that they're gone before they even appear on anything. So those two only appear in their initial rebuilding. Like, there's a news conference and then everybody was taking that awkward photo, the one where everybody looked very, very raw, I guess. And Yoshimoto Ayaka was in fact the center, the temporary center. And Yamamoto Honoka was, I'm not sure was she prominent, but she was in the group, she was in the photo, and those two, that's the only appearance they ever made. So sadly, we don't really know anything about them, and yeah, there's not much to say really. Although it's always interesting to think about it, since Yoshimoto Ayaka was the initial center, it's an interesting what if question, like what if she have stuck around and actually be center?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of interesting things there. I mean, one thing is I remember Yoshimoto Ayaka was the original sender, and she sort of left the group before they could actually debut.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that there was a second member who'd, left the group at roughly the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, like that's weirdly enough is something that I've kind of like never really heard about when other people have been talking about them. The other interesting thing here is that those members, both of them, are quite young for first gen.
Yeah, they might be. I don't quite remember their age, but if
Yeah,
we look at their,
because I'm looking at it now and they're 21 and 22 now, which
hmm
is kind of like, I mean, it's not like unusually young for first gen, but it is, like they're like they would have been some of the younger members of first gen if they were still around.
yeah, I do think Noki's management initially do have a preference for pushing younger member, maybe just because it was a conventional wisdom, and maybe they push them because they're hoping they'll stick around longer on the assumption that older member is going to graduate sooner. Because, after that, they push Ikoma, Minami, and Ikuchan, and they were relatively young compared to like Ma Yang and Sayori and Nanami.
Yeah, and they still push Asuka today, don't they?
True, although I feel like they kind of sit on Asuka early on for some reason.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like the other question is like, it makes me wonder whether there might have been an element of, like parents, parental involvement here. If they were
That's
that young,
possible.
maybe their parents didn't want them to be an idol group, especially because, I mean, like Nogizaka was definitely not famous at all at the time.
Yeah, it was just starting out, and even though Aki P was involved, it's not a certain thing, right? And we hear about the story a lot. Like Neru wasn't going to make it because her mother specifically opposed her being an idol, and yeah, this story is kind of common. So I'm not surprised that some member pulled out before they do anything.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
So, like the
So
next
moving on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
next member to graduate was Iwase Yumiko, who I do remember.
hmm
Um, I mean, all I really remember about Iwasa Yumiko is that she was like the original sort of group mother type of
Hmm.
character.
Yeah. She was not only the oldest, so maybe she's the oldest in the whole group. Like anyone who ever been a Nogi member, maybe she's the oldest. I'm not too sure, but she was definitely the oldest at the time. And she was like the senior member, the motherly member. Like she imagined like the Misa before Misa, that kind of thing. And I think she was more often or under. So imagine like Serarin's role, actually Misa's role too. They were both like their motherly figure in under, so she was that as well. Um, but yeah, I guess in this particular case, being their more elder member actually mattered because Nogi, it wasn't really obvious Nogi was gonna become big, and they were kind of stalling, and Iwase was a little bit old, so I guess it makes sense that she graduated. And I do think it's like the first legit grad since those two before her, they weren't really graduated. They just left before anything happened.
Yeah, I mean, she graduated about a year um, after the first two members who graduated,
Hmm.
which does remind me. Reminds me a little bit of there was like an NGT member. I'm struggling to remember her name, which is a
Mm.
little bit embarrassing.
Oh.
Um, but her name, like right, sorry, I finally looked at that. Mizusawa Ayaka was
Hmm.
also like the oldest member of NGT, and she sort of graduated the first out of any of the members. I think she graduated about a month before the release of their first single and went off to become like a primary school teacher.
Interesting.
And like I still have very fond memories of her because she was one of the NGT members who graduated before, NGT became like a sort of like, like famous byword for sort of, like idol group corruption, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so yeah, like it kind of does feel a bit like, she might have been, like a member. Sorry, I'm talking about Yumiko now. Yumiko might have been a member who sort of, had wanted to be an idol for a long time and sort of, just took her opportunity when it came along.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
before Nogizaka became a group, I mean, it's quite famous for being like an old group now
Yeah.
because like the average age of first gen is like 23
Mm-hmm.
or something like that, and I
Yeah.
think the average age of second gen is slightly over 20 as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if they'd had that reputation at the time, she might have stayed a bit longer. But yeah,
Yeah, it wasn't obvious. Um, One thing about Yumiko is that she did continue interacting post-graduation, like current Nogi member. I'm not sure if she's still interacting right now, but she certainly did for a while after she graduated.
mm,
And like she didn't really, I don't think she's not really like, she didn't really do entertainment job after that, but she did appear on a few like game streaming, like kind of Twitch-like thing in Japan. So yeah, just some tidbits about what she's been doing since her graduation.
mm.
Hmm.
So the next member we've got is Ando Mikumo. I
Yeah,
don't remember Ando. I'm sorry.
no worries. She was less prominent than Yumiko, so it's not a surprise that she's like a not a very familiar face. She also didn't really interact with Noki after graduation. After graduation,
Mm,
from what I can gather, she went to study university in America, I think, and basically she disappeared after that. So there's no more news of her, and it's not a surprise that we don't really know her because there's not much to say really.
um, like like interesting. She did last like another half a year after
Hmm.
Yumiko. So like she's in the group for like 2.5 years.
Hmm. Yeah.
Which I think does put into context the fact that like Noizaka has like done quite a good job like over the years of like holding on to its members and sort of like not putting them in a situation where they feel like they have to graduate. I think
True.
it kind of feels as though it tends to be their choice in terms of like it doesn't seem like many members are pushed anyway.
Yeah, I think so. I think like this. I know the next member. I can say definitely that it was like the feeling of there's not a prospect. They're not being pushed up, but they feel like there isn't really like there's not a bright future sticking around. So for early member, that's a reason to leave. But it's not like the group was trying to force people away.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So next member is Miyazawa Seda, who
Actually, before her, there's Yukino.
oh yeah, looking on the wiki, it does actually seem as though they graduated on the same day of
Oh, okay.
November the 17th, 2013.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, first thing I'll say is I can't. I remember Miyazawa Seda's face, but don't remember too much about what she was like as an idol.
Hmm. She always seems like an odd fit, and I think the reason for that is that she wasn't meant to be an idol. It was kind of like her plan B. The reason for that is that she was learning ballet, and she was very good at it actually. But then she had her injury that basically made it impossible for her to continue her career or
Right.
continue her
Okay.
study as a ballerina. And since Nogi was recruiting, I guess she's like, okay, since I can't be a ballerina, that would be my plan B. So it was kind of always odd fit because I mean, she's really tall. She doesn't. I mean, I'm not saying she's not pretty. I think she look good, but she's not like not what you imagine an idol would look like, right? She's always feels a little bit like an odd fit, and
Yeah, she looks
it,
like a ballerina instead of an idol, doesn't she?
yeah, yeah. Her another interesting fact about her, she have a very famous father. Apparently, her dad is like uh, a Miyazawa Michelle, I think, or
Hmm.
Michael, something like that. I think he's a happy and he's a famous football star in
Yeah,
Japan.
because Michelle sounds French, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a French happy. I think it's Michelle. I think I'm not too sure. This person was a soccer player, a football player, and was also like a football commentator. So her dad is decently successful, and maybe that's half a reason she got into Nogi.
Right, right.
Unfortunately, Nogi didn't work out for her. Although post grad, she did maintain contact with Nogi member, and sometimes she get a few entertainment gigs here and there. Most recently, she's like going to be on her magazine and maybe being a former Nogi help in that regard. So she's not doing too badly, although I think she definitely would have preferred to be able to continue her ballerina career.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And Kashiwa Yukina, I do remember. I also remember, like, I think people who have listened to this show have sort of like remembered me sort of referring to Kashiwa Yukina because Kashiwa Yukina was both a member of Momoide Kurova Z and
Hmm.
Nogizaka 46, and she sort of left both of them before they really sort of like hit the peak of their fame.
Yes.
I kind of remember like seeing her in early members of Nogizaka Teidoko,
Hmm.
and yeah, like I think like she seemed to be quite good. I don't think she sort of like left like an overwhelming impact on me, but like she seemed to be quite a good idol, and I always found it a little bit strange that she sort of gave up so quickly twice.
Yeah, like she's one of the big what if beside like if Yoshimoto Ayaka have stayed on as center. Yukina, I think she's kind of like Kodako in the sense that though she doesn't have necessarily got a lot of exposure, there's actually a lot of people who have an interest in her and actually want to see more of her. But that never happened. And for Yukina's case, I can very certainly say that she left because she feel like there's no prospect.
Hmm.
There was a leak conversation on social media. I forgot was it Twitter or Line or something. But basically she was on that social media, she was saying that it doesn't feel like there's any opportunity. And the reason for that was because she's under, and back then Nogi under really barely get anything to do.
Yeah.
So I kind of understand why she feel like there's no prospect and graduated eventually. And it is quite a shame because I do think she have like she do attract interest and people do want to see more from her. So if she just stick around longer and maybe one day got promoted to Senbatsu and actually get to do something, maybe she would have blow up. But yeah, that's not to be.
Yeah, so I think there's after Kashiwa Yukina, there's like three second gen members who graduated in 2014. But should we talk about Ichika Rena, who graduated in July 2014 first?
Yes, I think that's a good idea because recently she's back on the scene and she's doing really well for herself. So Ichiki Nena was, I say initially she was a little bit pushed because she was in Senbatsu and continued to be in Senbatsu despite the fact that her handshake style wasn't really good actually.
Yeah, I think
Ichiki,
Rena has been in 4 or 5 singles, wasn't she?
something like that, I'm not too sure, but she was definitely in the first three at least, I
Yeah,
think. And unfortunately, her position kind of just keep on sliding backward because despite the fact that management like her, it's just the fact that she isn't that popular, at least when it comes to her handshake number. So her position was sliding backward and eventually she slid to unders. And to be honest, she doesn't seem to mind. She seems like she wanted to be in, she was fine being in unders too, but then, Ichiki is quite intelligent academically at least. She was doing well in school and she was
yeah,
studying in Waseda and her study was taking, like it was getting very hard for her to balance her school studies and being in Nogi. So eventually she did opt to graduate and focus on her schooling, which paid off actually because right now she's accepted into Nippon Therapy as a announcer.
yeah.
She's on News Zero from Monday to Wednesday, and she's also one of those assistants on that. I forgot what the show's called, but that show with lawyers, that variety show. So she's doing really well for herself right now. In fact, you can say she's doing well, better than many current and former Nogi member.
Yeah, I think in Ichiki Rena's case, it was definitely like I think a good idea to graduate
Mm-hmm.
because, like you said, I think she was probably if she hadn't graduated, she probably would have like fallen into unders and sort of like found it quite hard to get out from there. But
Mm-hmm.
like she's graduated and she's like she's definitely very successful. It's like
Mm-hmm.
people do definitely know who she is now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she was actually on an episode of AK Bingo as like as a new newsreader rather than a
Yeah,
sort of
that's
like
true.
former member of Nogizaka 46. And I think she does seem to have like still like a genuinely good relationship with the members who are still in the group. Like I've definitely seen Ichiki Rena kind of like appear in quite a lot of like photos with current and former Nogizaka members.
Yeah,
Like she always seemed to be like a very sort of like likable person.
mm-hmm. Yeah, she's definitely a friendly person. She was on one of those, I think it was the lawyers show actually, and she like when she first made her appearance there, and I think they asked her does she still have contact with current Nogi members? She said yes, and she mentioned being in contact and meeting up with Ma Yang and Sayuri, etc. So she's definitely still friendly and making contact with current Nogi member.
Yeah.
Another thing to mention about her, besides being very intelligent, is that she was very good at what do you call that? Latin dance?
Salsa, flamenco.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There was like one of the earlier Noki Doko apps, she was showing off her dancing skill, and it was very impressive. So she's very good at dancing, and she's also very good at her studies. So yeah, she was quite a talented member.
Yeah. Also, like just to clarify, if you're an English speaking person, Ichiki Rena is a announcer on like a sort of like news show, but like an announcer is kind of halfway between a news reader and like a presenter who sort of like like presents like various segments about stuff that's not related to news. So like Japanese newsreaders kind of like do double duty as both newsreader and presenter, and that's what Rena does now.
Hmm.
So moving on from her, like we're going to talk about. There's three second gens who graduated in 2004. Nishikawa Nanami, Yada Risako, and Yonetoku Kyoka.
Hmm.
Um, and again, like these are members who I really don't know anything about because they kind of graduated before I got into the group and sort of like they didn't ever really get much exposure. So I'm kind of
I can
almost completely in the dark about the three of them.
I can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'll start off with I'll talk about Risako because I actually don't have much to say about her. But moving on from her, Kyoka actually was a youth Olympic swimmer.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so she's very good at swimming. But beside that, yeah, that's it.
Okay.
As as for Nishikawa Nanami, she's the most interesting of the three because she kind of had a redemption arc going on. She was she was actually part of AKB's 8th gen, and I'm not too familiar with AKB history, but apparently the whole 8th generation got dismissed
Oh,
because
yeah. Like that story is like utterly bleak. Like every single member of 8th Gen never became a full member. Like it
yeah,
was just like a point in AKB's history where they sort of realized that they were actually bringing in just like too many Kenkyusei that they didn't
mm,
know what to do with, so they just sort of like cancelled the contracts of every single 8th Gen member.
mhm. Interesting because the story I heard is that 8th gen was a bad gen, like all the member of 8th gen was like there's some problem either with the attitude or something. I'm not sure if that's true. That's just the rumors I heard. But yeah, for whatever reason, Agent was cancelled, and for Nishikawa, she wasn't taking that laying down. She wants to be idol, so she auditioned for Noki second gen, and it was like a prominent theme for her. Like when she, when they were reviewing second gen, it was during the principal, and after every stage performance, there'll be one second gen that will go on stage and introduce themselves. And I remember for Nishikawa, this redemption was kind of like her theme. It's her thing, and but because she was from the notorious agent, it was always an uphill battle. People, some people don't want to have the feeling that we're taking spoiled good, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So
Although like recently this was actually repeated because Kitagawa Yuri is a member of 4th Gen, like a new member, and she was also a member of AKB very briefly before sort of deciding that. I mean, Kitagawa Yuri actually just made the decision herself that she wasn't interested in being an AKB member after a couple of months, and she decided to reapply for Nogizaka instead.
hmm yeah, yeah. So I don't know. Like I guess Kitagawa because she never I think she was in the the draft, right?
I think
So
she is a draft 3 member, yeah.
the feeling I got was that she never accepted the draft, so she just like there's less of her.
Yeah, maybe she actually wanted to be in a different 48 group.
Yeah,
I wouldn't know anything about that, but yeah, maybe that was what was driving that decision.
yeah, but yeah, for whatever reason, Nishikawa never continued, and maybe it was just that. I mean, I think it's partly because it doesn't seem like there's much prospect for second gen, because
Yeah, well, I mean, this is something which is interesting because, like, all three of the second gen members who graduated so far graduated almost straight away,
yeah, it
all
was.
in 2014. And like, obviously, like Karen is now graduating, but like that's like a 5 year gap sorry, no, 4 year gap in between the first member of second gen to graduate and then like the next gen member to come along.
Yeah, there's a huge gap between Kalin and these three. So, and
But
I, yeah,
I think we've spoken about this before, but like second gen's like initiation was really badly done. So I
Yeah.
think I can feel quite a lot of sympathy with second gens, kind of thinking, like not only are they never going to be pushed as individuals, but they're never going to be pushed as a group as well.
Yeah.
So, like I can sort of understand why you would get disheartened if you were in that situation
Hmm.
before, like Undergirl's participation became like a bigger thing and, second gen started to feel as though at least they would have something to do in their
Hmm.
career.
That's true. Just gonna add one minor factoid. Apparently, Nishikawa and Isako and Manazu were in the same calligraphy
Huh.
club back in high school, which is super interesting.
So, yeah, so that's those three. And then the next member to graduate after them was actually, uh, you know, Risako and Kyoka both graduated on October the 18th, 2014, and Ito Nene
Hmm.
graduated on October the 19th,
Hmm.
2014. Um, yeah, like Ito Nene, obviously the favorite of Vince, who was on
Yeah.
recently,
Hmm.
who kind of like, I think, must have made pretty much the same kind of decision. It's kind of like Ito Nene had been a member for a fairly long time by that point, but like was definitely not a management favorite.
Hmm. Yeah. Donene was she was most famous for being very acrobatic.
Mm,
Like she was the one that can do the black flick back in the days. She was also very close with another Ito Malika.
yeah.
And yeah, they made a good duo. And in fact, I think just before she graduated, they performed that Kodoku Kyodai together in Underlives or something like that.
Mm,
And yeah, despite graduating, Itonen is still in the entertainment business. She's been doing like some gravure. She's been on some acting project here and there. I think mostly musical related, although there are some films that she's been involved. But yeah, she's not doing too bad. She gets things here and there, and I think she's still in contact with Noki sometimes. So yeah, she's not doing too bad.
yeah. Like I still see Ito Nene like on my Twitter timeline doing stuff.
Hmm.
Um, so like I don't know. I can't say that she's like a huge success afterwards, but it definitely feels as though like entertainment has like properly become her job.
Hmm.
Like still as an adult after leaving Nogizaka. So like that's still I think like something to be proud of.
Hmm. That's true.
Next member is Yamato Rina,
Hmm.
who Yamato Rina is like an interesting member for people who sort of like are interested in the group but don't know much about its history because I believe Yamato Rina is the only Nogizaka member who was fired.
Yeah, I think so. uh, she, she might have been doing underage drinking, I think, and I think she was either they didn't renew her contract or they terminated her contract. Regardless, she's the one that didn't like that wasn't like didn't graduated, but
Yeah, because like as I understand it, the word graduate was not used when Yamato Rina graduated.
yeah, that's true.
But to fill people in, like Yamato Rina had a scandal because she was sort of like involved with an older man.
Hmm.
But as you said, I think the thing that actually led to her being fired was the fact that she was sort of like drinking alcohol when she
Hmm.
was out on a date with this older man because like there have been like a fair few Nogizaka members who've like survived, like
Hmm.
dating scandals.
Yeah.
Um, like they survive them, but I think that like underage drinking is a much bigger issue when it comes to idols getting fired than dating is because
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure that that was the reason why Nishino Miki and Owada Nana were both sort of like
Oh,
asked to leave AKB because they were sort of like out on a group date which involved drinking.
I didn't know that.
And also like a lot like some listeners might know that like there was a big group of HKT members who were sort of let go early
Mm-hmm.
on in the group's history.
Mm.
Because there were like a lot of rumors around that group of members, but sort of like the one which seems to have led to them getting fired was the fact there was drinking involved there as well.
Mm. That
So
makes sense.
yeah, like it's like basically it seems as though Rena was kind of like fired mostly for drinking, I think.
Yeah, that's the impression I get. And Japan do seems to treat underage drinking particularly harshly for whatever
Yeah,
reason.
yeah.
Yeah, Japan sometimes have real priorities sometimes. But yeah, another interesting thing about Yamato Rina is that after she graduated, she somehow managed to release her solo single,
Hmm.
and I think it was crowdfunded, like like something like Kickstarter, but for song, something like that. And that's interesting. And
Well, she's not my favorite member, but good for her.
yeah, but after that, she seems to rely on like she's on the news these days, and not because she's doing entertainment stuff, but because she's involved with a dude. I forgot his name, but apparently he's the son of a very rich and famous person, and he have loads of money, but he is married, so she's like
Right, okay.
the lover of this guy. But it seems like she is wrestling him away from the wife, and he's more into her than into his wife, and he's rich, so yeah,
Wow, okay.
not very morally outrageous kind of news, but it's news. And some people joke that she's actually doing better than a lot of member because of this.
Yeah, unless he also divorces her as well, because
That's
doesn't
that's
sound like a great guy, does he?
no, but he did give her a lot of expensive gift apparently, like rings and jewelries, and so if she wants to run off of those now, she's still materially doing well for herself at least.
Well, I think that's an interesting segue into the next member who graduated, who was Hatanaka Seira, who graduated in April 2015, who I believe is married and has a kid, right?
Yes, it's actually like the polar opposite.
Yeah.
She's I think the kid's born now, right?
Yeah, no, I've
Uh,
definitely seen, like pictures of Seira with a kid around somewhere, yeah.
yeah, so compared to the little bit more erratic life of Yamato Rina, Hatanaka Seira have a more conventionally good life, I guess. Like she's
Yeah.
married,
I
there's
mean,
nothing
I don't
messy.
think Seira left show business, didn't she? Didn't she? I don't
I
remember seeing her except in sort of like Nogizaka pictures after that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think she did much. I think she also did a kind of like one of those crowdfunding thing where she made some stuff. I'm not sure that anything ever came of it, but there was that crowdfunding thing for sure. I remember that. But after that, yeah, I don't remember seeing her in any other entertainment kind of stuff. And yeah, she's married now, so she doesn't need to anymore.
Yeah, and yeah, it's interesting because I always thought of her as being like very very youthful. So like like when I sort of like heard that she had a kid, I was like slightly like surprised at that. And like I looked it up and she's 23, so
Yeah,
it's not like shockingly weirdly young. I think it's just her face. Like her face is like kind of like so like babyish that I always kind of assumed that she's like years younger than she actually was.
mm, possibly. But yeah, 23 is still really, really young. So yeah. An interesting tidbit about her is that both Sarah and Misa were in their small indie idol group called Chimo,
Mm.
Chimo, and it was a idol group based in Oita, which is Misa's home prefecture.
Yeah, but it's not Sada's home prefecture, is it?
I don't think so. I think she's from the prefecture close by, but not this
I
one.
think she's from Osaka.
Is it? I
Yeah.
thought she's from like somewhere in. Actually, no, she is from Oita. So they're both from Oita.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're both former.
Must have
Kimo
misread
member.
that somehow.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, or maybe she moved. I'm not sure. It's possible.
But
I
anyway,
always thought she's from Fukuoka, but yeah. But anyways.
next member to graduate was like actually a year off that. In March 2016, Nagashima Seda graduated. And this is actually kind of like, this is the first member who's graduated from Noisaka 46 who I kind of like really felt personally as a fan, because I really really liked her, like always. And kind of like I was kind of hoping she'd stay on a little bit longer, but I think that like Ichiki Rena, like Seda kind of, like took a look at her sort of position in Nogizaka, which wasn't bad. Like there's definitely like members who've, like been less popular than Seda, but I think she kind of looked at it and she thought that she could probably do a bit better outside of the group. And she did.
Yeah, she's currently in HollyPro, which is a really huge management agency, and they treat her well. She goes on show every once in a while. Recently, I think she went on a show where she gone to the Philippines.
Yeah.
So she's doing really well for herself, and I think more recently she's going to be like also an announcer and doing weather reports and interviewing athletes. So
yeah,
she's doing great. Yeah.
Basically, Seda has become, like there's a lot of like talking head style like personalities on Japanese TV, and that's what Seda does now mostly.
Yeah.
But like I follow Seda's Twitter, and there is like a sort of like genuine stream of news about sort of like various jobs that she's got. So while the kind of like I think the weather reporter thing is the first like big long-term thing that she's got.
Yeah, I think so.
Like before that, she has always had like a very like steady stream of things that she's done, and like she's still really really good on TV. Like she's a sort of like very sort of like like positive presence on TV. So she's always seemed to have like not much trouble finding work. So it's like things are definitely going well for her. So I'm like happy to see that.
Yep. Just a bit about her in her Nogi days. She was very, very, very close with Ma Yang. In fact, when Serarin first entered Senbatsu, I think it was for Kimi no Akibo, Ma Yang rushed to her and they hugged very tightly, and it was very moving on Nogi.co. So they were definitely very close. But she's not popular enough, I guess, for
she's kind of like Seidanin was like like her popularity was good enough that if she'd been put in Senbatsu, people wouldn't think it was like an odd decision. But like by the same token, if she'd appeared in Undergirls, no one would have thought it was an odd decision either. So she was like constantly like on the kind of boundary between the two groups.
Yeah, although she was in a boundary and she definitely could have been a staple of Senbatsu, she was usually pretty under. And in fact, she gained a kind of a under captain kind of role. So, when she was graduating and she was graduating from understuff, you get a sense that she's the captain, she's the senior figure in unders. So yes, she was very close with under members. She was also very close with Ma Yang. And in fact, because she was so close with Ma Yang, there had been a theory, I guess, I'm not sure if you can call it conspiracy theory, that HollyPro recruited her because they were expecting Ma Yang to graduate soon, and by having that in HollyPro, it would be more of an incentive for Ma Yang to go to HollyPro. But Ma Yang never graduated, so.
Well,
Mm.
Interesting theory, at least, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, An next member to graduate is, I think, someone who's a favourite of both of us is Fukugawa Mai in June 2016.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I was very upset.
I'm still upset they haven't released her graduation concert on like DVD
Yeah, I know.
Blu-ray.
Like people would buy that.
Yeah, I know, right? Um, yeah, mine was their first big graduation from Nogi. She's like the first Fukuching level graduation from Nogi, and I think she was the oldest by that time. I'm not sure if she
My
older
mum
than.
was the oldest by that time. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. She's older than Nanamin.
yeah, and okay, she's barely, okay, not barely, she's a 1 year younger than Yumiko, but Yumiko graduated pretty early in comparison, so Mai might have been their eldest member for a while now. And I guess, like, I guess it makes some sense, but also, like, there was no one that really wanted her to graduate. She was beloved, she was like she had a stable personality, everybody loved her, and nobody, like compared to my June, where people do kind of joke around calling her a baba or something. My doesn't have that. Like people just like she's like age wasn't an issue, is what I'm saying, I guess.
Yeah,
And
like if you're kind of like a new member to sort of like sorry, a new fan of Nogizaka, like Fukugawa Mai was kind of like famous as being the sort of like like calm, likable personality that everyone really liked.
hmm
I honestly think that like I never met a single fan at that time who didn't really like her.
yeah, she was very gentle, and in fact, it was because that she was so caring that Kawago kind of like admire her and call her Sable. Because when Kawago first moved to Tokyo from Kyushu, I think, she didn't really know her way around the city, so my would always take her to her school and care for her. So my was very gentle and often take care of stuff.
Yeah,
And
so I mean, like if you don't understand Japanese, like basically, Kawago Hina came up with a nickname for Mai, which basically just sort of like makes her sound like a religious figure.
yeah, my was also one of the four artistic member.
Hmm.
They all graduated now, but back then Noki fans considered these four particular members to be very graduating. It was Nanase, Marika, Mai, and Nanami, I think. And yeah, Mai was decently graduating. She was very gentle and kind with members. Everybody loved her, and she was one of the few member that never dropped senbatsu, I think. No, she never dropped senbatsu once she got into senbatsu.
Yeah.
And her, like, if you look at her career based on formation, it's an upward trajectory, and it never go down, basically.
Yeah, and it ended up with Mai was the first member who got a graduation
Single.
center. Yeah,
Yeah.
like Mai was center for the single that she graduated on,
Hmm.
which is kind of like a lot of like a lot of fans kind of sometimes have difficulties dealing with listening to that single because there's a lot of emotion there.
Yeah.
Um, but she's doing fantastically well.
Yes. She's in an agency called 10 Carat, and she's mostly pursuing an acting career, and she's doing pretty well on that regard. As you might know, last season she got to be the lead in a drama. I mean, it's not a drama in a particularly good time slot, but still to be able to be the lead of a drama is still a big deal.
Yeah,
And
and she's also like an award winner now.
yeah,
Like
um,
I don't know how prestigious like Japanese TV awards are, but she's already won one as best actress in one of the series she's been in.
Yeah, I don't know the specific awards, but she's doing pretty well when it comes to those as well. She's been in several movies. I mean, they're not like blockbuster movie. I think they feel a bit more artsy, but nonetheless, she's been on several of those, so she's at least getting a constant stream of jobs.
It honestly does feel as though, I mean, I'll be honest, like I don't watch Japanese drama series and I don't know anything about them, but it definitely feels as though my mind might actually, like have like a genuinely promising and lasting career. And I say that because, firstly, like she does seem to have got like a sort of good reaction to the work she's done so far,
Hmm.
and her work seems regular. But also, a lot of idols who sort of like go into acting are sort of like popular for a couple of years while they still have that idol image.
Hmm.
But my mate is already 28, which I
Hmm.
like, you know, as with the world of idols, in the world of drama, like Japanese drama sort of like really focuses on youth to a ridiculous extent. So if she can be
Yeah.
popular coming in as a 28-year, sort of probably like a 26-year debutante, she probably has like a fairly good chance of still being popular into her 30s because her image isn't going to change that much.
Yeah. Also, it's interesting because most of her acting gigs, she didn't get them immediately after she graduated. She got them more, like most of them are more recent, in fact. Like, there's a few movie this year and last year, and there's that drama I just mentioned that also from last season. So like most of her acting gigs are more recent. It's not like she graduated as her idol and she was a hot item idol that people put into roles. No, it's a little bit of a more of a slow climb. So
2018 was a very good year for her.
yeah. She also got two commercial, I believe. Well, maybe more, but the two I remember is one of them was for Reading Wing, I think, and
Hmm.
another one was for mobile game. So she's able to get commercial deals as well, and commercial deals are pretty profitable for entertainers. So these are all good indication for my mind.
The next member who graduated after Mai Mai was Hashimoto Nanami in February 2017.
Hmm.
Um, like again, like I think Nanamin is like a figure who's, like fame, like possibly even more of a bigger name if you're an Ogizaka fan than Mai Mai was.
Hmm.
Um,
Definitely, yeah. She's she's often considered to be a member of Gosankei, which refers to the trio of Mayang, Sayuri, and Anami. And they are referred to that not only because they're kind of compatible in style, but also because they were for a long time the most popular three member of the group.
yeah,
And yeah, even once they stop being the three most specifically popular one, they're still like consistent. She's still just consistently a Fukuji member and one other member with like front row popularity.
yeah, and it's kind of like, one of the most notable things about Nanamin is that I think she was Mai Mai kind of like I think is quite well known amongst the general public now.
Hmm.
But Nanamin, I think, was quite well known amongst the general public before she graduated.
Hmm.
Um,
I.
and kind
Mhm.
of like Nanamin as well, like much like my graduated with a graduation single center.
Hmm.
But I think a lot of Nogizaka fans kind of felt that was, it felt less like a kind of graduation center and more a kind of like righting of a wrong because Nanamin probably should have been center at some point before that time.
That's true. She was always like one of the member that people want to see center, but she also had health problem, and maybe that make it a bit more difficult to center too. So I mean I can see two sides to it, but if we just look at popularity, she's definitely one of those members that should have centered before.
Yeah. So Nanamin graduated in, like a couple of years ago.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because Nanamin, like shortly before she graduated, like she kind of started talking a bit about why she'd become an idol in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And, like Nanamin's family had a lot of money problems.
Mm-hmm.
So she basically became an idol in the hope that she would sort of like make enough money to help out her family.
Mm-hmm.
And as you mentioned, she sort of like had health problems. So I think she only wanted to commit to being an idol as much as she really needed to. And it kind of,
Yeah.
as things turned out, like Nanamin, she made enough money to, I think her parents bought her house using the money that Nanamin made, and her brother went to university using the money she'd
Yeah.
made. And when she'd sort of like achieved these aims that she had, she decided to graduate from Nogizaka and just quit show business, basically.
Yeah, basically, she never really wanted to be in show business. The famous story was that, she was starving because she's in Tokyo and her family is in Hokkaido. And I mean, there's indication that she might be from a single parent family, might be just her mom.
Right.
And it's tough for single families. And in fact, they oppose her mom, possibly oppose her going to Tokyo and studying at what do you call that university again? That art school. So it's a decision she made against her mom's will, and the family was poor anyway, so it's not like they can support her even if they want to, and they didn't support her decision anyway. So it was very tough for her in Tokyo. And the famous story is that she saw this ad recruiting for Nogizaka, and she just wanted to get the lunch that
Yeah.
comes with being on the job, and she became popular. Like that was a bit of a surprise,
Yeah.
and she managed to use that to do good for her family, do good for her brother. She's very close to her brother, and she paid for the tuition for her brother. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to finish the art school she was pursuing. It was too hard for her to pursue both her education and her career in Nogi, so she had to abort that. But she did mention wanting to go back, although I'm not sure that has she gotten the chance to do that yet. Right now, she's probably working as a staff at one of the affiliate of Sony. We are not sure exactly where, and we don't need to, but she's working somewhere over there.
Yeah, because
And
I think Nanamin was spotted at a Sony event for Equal Love, I believe it was.
yeah, so she's a staff there somewhere.
So yeah, like Nanamin is now like a regular citizen, basically.
Yeah. And it's very, very interesting how impactful her career is, despite the fact that she wasn't really into it. Because nowadays you still see people once in a while mentioning how much they miss her and how much they wish to see her.
Well, it's
So it
interesting
really,
because I think that there was a bit of a backlash towards Nanamin kind of like near the end of her career when like she started giving interviews saying that like firstly kind of like I think she was a bit ambivalent about being an idol, and then sort of like when people asked her, like, did you do it for the fans? She said, no, I did it for my family. And
hmm
she was very clear about that she had not done it for the fans. But I kind of think that, I think the question people should ask themselves is like, like, did they enjoy her being an idol?
yeah,
And if they
I
did, like, have we really got anything to complain about? That's
mhm.
how I feel. I feel like we have nothing to complain about because pretty much all of us. I mean, I'm not even like a particularly big fan of hers, but
Mhm.
like I enjoyed her being an idol, and I don't think that she should sort of like have to say, like we're more important than the people she cares about.
Yeah, like I'm not surprised that such a remark generated some reaction, but I think most people still appreciate what she did and still are fine with the fact that she's doing this for her family and for herself. And yeah, that I think the fact that we enjoyed what she have done as an idol, that's more important than saying that she had to be doing this for us.
Yeah.
hmm
So moving on, we unfortunately have another member who kind of like I think eventually graduated because of various health problems. That's Nakamoto Himeka in
hmm
November 2017.
hmm
I mean, I think Himatan has kind of like had both physical and mental health problems. You know, it's like I think she had quite a few. Like her body was not particularly strong,
Mm.
and she also suffered from depression.
Hmm. Yeah, Himeka was one of those members that's always popular but never really gotten much of a chance to appear on Senbatsu. And some people wonder whether that negatively affected her mental health. I
Yeah,
mean, it's I think that might have, but I'm not a professional. I'm not close to the inner
I think
working.
it's true that I think the stress of the job probably made things like harder for her. But I mean, it does kind of like raise the question about whether it would have been much easier for her in any other job she could have got.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, like if you're like, let's, you know, like to be honest, if you're young and female, like most of the jobs you have are like available to you are like not pleasant jobs. You know, like
True.
they're mostly sort of like long hours, low wages jobs, and you know, it's the kind of
Mhm.
work which, you know, like affects people's mental state.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I think it's possible that, you know, like being an idol, the pressure kind of did make her mental health problems worse.
Yeah.
But like you said, you know, like she was in a kind of difficult situation because she was like fairly popular, but I think management did not ever particularly like her.
Hmm.
So while she was probably popular enough to have been in Senbatsu, she wasn't in Senbatsu that often.
Yeah, she only
And
been in Senbatsu like twice, and it was very late in her career, and then eventually they dropped her again, despite the fact that she is one of the top selling member when it comes to Handshake.
mm,
So definitely popular. Um, an interesting thing to note about her is that she been geared, I guess, toward showbiz since her youth. She was in their what they call their Hiroshima Actor School.
mm,
I'm not sure why it's called Actor School because this place is more famous for singers. So Nakamoto is the sister of another famous entertainer. Um, if you know Baby Metal, you should know Suzuka, right?
yeah,
Sumeto. So that's her sister, and they both been in this actor school, and there's a lot of footage online. You can find up both of them singing as a little kid for this actor school. This actor school also produced Perfume. So yeah, it's a pretty I can say I guess I can you can say it's prestigious, but it did have some impressive alumni.
mm,
And I sometimes wonder whether the success of her younger sister contributed to this health problem.
yeah,
Like I'm not saying they're on bad terms, and I mean I can see this happen even if they're on good terms though, because people do make comparison, and maybe you make comparison yourself, and you see your younger sister is doing really really well, and you look at yourself, and I mean you're not doing too badly, but you never get to be consistently in Senbatsu and have high exposure, despite the fact that you feel like you've done a lot and you feel like you're popular, right?
mm,
So that's always been something that bugged me back then, and I mean it's mental health is difficult, so we can't say for sure whether if she had been better praised, she would have been in a better situation. But it's definitely feel like she wasn't treated too fairly at least, and it's a shame really that she wasn't able to do more in Nogi.
yeah. And I mean that's also led on to her, you know, like future choice of career because Himatan now actually, I think, I don't know whether she has started doing this job, but I know she made like an announcement that she was going to move into mental health care.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like so she was going to sort of like start helping out, you know, like other people who had mental health problems who were sort of like in the entertainment industry, I think specifically.
Mm.
Correct me if I'm wrong
She's
about that, but
she obtained a certificate from her association, I think, and some I remember some people questioned their their credential of this
mm,
particular certificate. But from my guess is this is something entry level, but she is in Waseda University, so my assumption is she is studying for psychology degree, something that's a bit more advanced. And the entry level thing do permit her, give her certification to do something that's a bit more entry level when it comes to mentor advice. But regardless of the specific other credential, she's still in Nogizaka 46 LLC, which is the agency for Nogizaka that also take in many recent graduates. And they do organize like mental advice service for Himeka. Like you can book her basically to do mental advice thing. So she's a mental health counselor that you can book with Nogizaka 46 LLC.
Yeah, so like I think in it, like it does I think it kind of like shows a character that, like that's, like she's taken her problems and she sort of like wants to, like use her experiences to help other people. And I kind of think it does say quite a lot about the kind of person that she is.
Yeah, it's very admirable.
Yeah. So that's what Himatan is doing. And then shortly after she graduated, Ito Marika graduated in December 2017. Is one of my favourite members. I've kind of like always like found her, like really interesting in the way she, she's interested in quite a lot of different arts. So like arts plural, so like she's interested in art and she's interested in music and she's interested in design, and like she was always one of the most like creative and interesting members of Nogizaka 46. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but has Marika not sort of like spoken after graduation about the fact that she sort of thought it was a bit odd that she became an idol, but she was quite pleased that sort of people reacted to her positively?
I'm not sure about that actually. I don't remember this. When did this happen?
I'm not sure when it happened either. But I know it's like it's in the lyrics of Haji Marika. So I think I might have got this from sort of like some kind of like model press interview or something like that after she left the group and they were asking her questions about the song.
That's possible. Yeah. She definitely have very personalized lyrics, because if I'm correct, I think she wrote them herself. Like,
yeah,
she's famous for her bonus video. In fact, just yesterday I found a compilation of all her bonus video from her Nogi days. So check that out if you haven't. And there's several famous songs in there, and the lyrics, if I'm correct, are written by Marika herself, and they're very, very quirky, and it really shows her personality. So I'm not surprised if there's one of those lyrics that like talk about this and talk about what she think about this. So I can imagine that.
But it's like, yeah, like I mean, and as far as I can tell, she's doing really well. Like she has just had, like a whole bunch of different things come her way. Like I think, she had. I think it was shortly just before she graduated, she had like an exhibition space in like somewhere in Tokyo. And like correct me if I'm wrong, but she's gonna be in a film.
She's going to be in Kakegururi's movie.
Yeah,
the one that Sayuri acted in. So they're both going to appear in that movie, but Monika's only appearing in that movie, whereas Sayuri is appearing in their season 2 of the drama
as well. Yeah.
Yes. So she's appearing in that, and she did have some acting gig here and there, I believe, way back in Nogi days, pretty early on actually, in 2015. She also acted in a horror movie called Eyes, and I thought she was really good in there. There was 2 other movies from 2 other members I forgot who, but Eyes in particular stood out really well because it was a kind of creative psychological horror. And so she's a really good actress, but she's also very good at dancing and very good at, as you mentioned, those design aspect of things. In fact, like her dancing in Influenza actually caught a lot of people's attention, even though she wasn't necessarily in the most prominent position. So I'm sure you that her dancing was something that can catch people's attention. Besides that, as you mentioned, she's really good at design. Her mother and father, one is a barber, I believe, another is a fashion designer, I think. And she engaged in those kind of stuff. I think she one time mentioned that one of the people she admires is someone who do coordination internationally, and she got a lot of fans because of these interesting aspects of her. For example, Nehru, from Keakizaka, is going to graduate soon. She's a big Malika fan. And beside her, there's a lot of people who like her for this aspect of her, these very artsy, very unique art kind of perspectives.
And it's kind of like, I've kind of like continued to follow her career, and basically, like you do see, like I mentioned, like two big things which have sort of like bookended her sort of like time as a graduated member, but you always see like small things coming Malika's way every sort of like couple of months or so. So, like I think we're still kind of in the dark about what direction her career is going to sort of like go in. But like there definitely seems to be a lot of interest in her from people. So, like I'm kind of looking forward to what she's going to do, and it looks like she's going to be a success.
Yeah, she's well liked by their art group people, like directors and creators. These kind of people like her. So hopefully that can lead to more good things.
Yeah. So after Marika, the next member which graduated was Kawamura Mahiro in March 2018. So, like I think we're sort of like we're now in the kind of like members who, this is only about a year ago, so I think even most fans will sort of like know the graduated members we're talking about now. But
maybe instead we should be educating her current fan about her Nogi history.
yeah, because like like she was not like not a particularly popular member of Nogizaka, but she was probably like one of the most skilled, and that's led into what she's doing now, because she is now a member of a Korean K-pop group, which I think are all the members of the group she's in, which is called Z Girls. Are they all non-Koreans, or is it just there's a
No, they're all non-Koreans. Like they're from all over the place. One's from India, one's from the Philippines, one's from Thailand. Like what I mean. Like it's an international group, and they're marketing them as that. Like I checked out their website once, and it was a real website. It's not like a like it's not like Noki website. It was like a Invest in Us website, which is kind of weird. But anyway, they're kind of marketing themselves as like an international thing, and that's why they have girls from all over the place. And to be honest, the investment page are kind of funny, but so some people was like, it's a fraud, but no, I think it's legit because recently Z Girls went to the Philippines, and they have like several lives there, and in fact one of our Twitter fellow Twitterer was there and went to like greet her at the airport, went to the live and that kind of stuff. So it's legit at least, and they're attracting some fans. Like K-pop's big, and although they don't really call themselves K-pop, they call themselves something internationally more sophisticated, I guess. But there's a lot of K-pop fans who are interested in them, and it's interesting because our friend is a Noki fan, so she have these props and Mahiro stuff, and Loki was pleased to see that, but some other fans were like, "Oh, where did you get this from? I never seen this before." Like they don't know about her history, so they don't know about the fact that she was a Noki member and these things exist.
Yeah, so I mean, like Lottie was not my favorite member, but I definitely can't, like she was definitely one of the most skillful members of the group, like all round. So I mean, I think I think it's like quite appropriate that she was picked up by a K-pop group when they sort of like, like focus more on the skills over there. Because if
That's
like
true.
if you're going to choose a group based on, like primarily on skill, like she would be someone who, should get picked, I think.
Yeah, she was definitely one of the best singer and best dancer in Nogi. So it's very appropriate that she's in her K-pop group now. And in fact, you can argue that was kind of funny she was in Nogi and been in Nogi for so long. Yeah.
So moving on, there's the next member who graduates is Iko Marina in May 2018. Like I think regular sort of like listeners of the podcast know that me and Rusty don't care for Ikoma that much, but I think like she is like a massive part of like Nogizaka's history, like for better or worse, because she was the center for the first 7 singles. Is it 7 singles?
First five and
First
then
five,
later
okay,
on.
and then one later on.
Yes.
Because she like she was the public face of the group for years.
hmm Yeah, and she during that time she ran a lot of variety show. She's usually tasked by management with going on show outside of the group shows. I'm talking about like Nogi 2, Nogi Doko, that kind of stuff. She's often the one that gets sent out to the other stuff, the primetime stuff. And yeah, she's doing okay these days, I think.
I honestly haven't actually seen any news about her since she graduated at all. Do you know what she's actually doing?
I do, surprisingly.
Right, yeah.
She's been in a few musical. They're not big musical, but she's been in a few, and she's also often appear in primetime shows here and there as guest. But the more steady thing was that she's in 2 of these shows that's been going on for a long time. One's John Police, and the other one, I forgot its name. The bad news for her is that these 2 shows are ending. So those 2 are like, it doesn't seem like she'll continue to have a spot in future show that take these time slot. But she do appear on also a show every here and there. Sometime when I go and watch some random variety shows, she appears there. I didn't expect her there. So
yeah, I mean,
she's not doing too badly. Yeah.
If you're a new fan of Nogizaka, this is the weird thing. It's kind of like Ikoma Marina was the center for a lot of Nogizaka's, like period before they started to, like before their popularity started to really take off.
Mm-hmm.
So while kind of like she's acknowledged as being one of the sort of most important members of the group, it does kind of like make me wonder, I think if like Mayan graduates, for example, like she'll be famous as, like a Nogizaka member, and it will sort of like get her work. But because Ikoma Arena sort of like actually faded into the background a little bit when Nogizaka became more popular, I do kind of wonder like how much work the connection will get her going forward into the future. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what I mean. Although I do think she's emphasizing that connection a lot. At least that's the sense I got from, like, in those Madome, they often talk about her Instagram posts for some reason, and she often talk about gay stuff.
Yeah.
So she's definitely trying to emphasize that connection in my view, at least.
But yeah, like, I mean, I don't know how things are going to go for her. I mean, but partly it's because I don't really know what she's doing at the moment. But yeah,
my guess is that she will continue to take odd guest appearance on various shows here and there. I'm not sure if she's going to get any more prime time regular, because she's never that popular. So
yeah.
It wouldn't make sense to make her regular. And I would, like, if I'm a primetime show looking for people, I would much rather take Sayuri, who is very, very good and still in Nogi, right?
Yeah.
So,
But it's like, yeah, because it's she's now, I kind of think, in a bit of a weird position where like she's famous for being one of the sort of primary figures of Nogizaka, but she kind of feels less iconic than like Nanase or Mayan, or even like Ika-chan as
Asuka.
well, like people like
Yeah.
and Asuka as well.
Hmm.
So like when there's kind of like members like Mai Mai or Marika who have like specific skills,
Hmm.
you can sort of see what they're going to do in the future, but I kind of not quite sure what she'll do. But
Yeah.
like
What?
kind of like moving on, because we don't really know how things will go in the future. Like
Hmm.
moving on, there were
Hmm.
two graduates in July 2018 on the same day, and they were Saito Chiharu and Sagara Iori.
Hmm.
And Chi-chan and Iorin were both kind of. Chi-chan and Iorin never really became like particularly popular,
Hmm.
but I think they had quite a lot of goodwill from like people in the fandom, because I know that like a lot of people in the fandom are still sort of like happy when they're sort of like seeing them do work these days.
Hmm. Yeah, they were very likable, but I guess unfortunately they weren't anyone's like not anyone's, but they weren't enough people's Oshi. Like they
Yeah.
were everyone liked them enough, but few Oshi them, so they weren't in their best position in the group, but they are generally well liked, and in fact I think they're doing decently post graduation.
Yeah, well, I
For
mean,
yeah.
like Iorin in particular, like Iorin, like graduated to become a model, and that's what she is basically.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like like I see Iorin like doing work a
Hmm.
lot now. I
Hmm.
think it might have been a little bit slow at first, but she's definitely getting a lot of work now. Um,
Yeah.
I don't think she's like a fashion icon or anything, but she definitely seems
No.
to regularly be getting jobs, and it's like she's turned up doing Tokyo Girls Collection and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And
Hmm.
like it definitely just seems like like her career is going well.
Hmm. Yeah, I mentioned this before already, but since we're talking about her, I'm just gonna mention it again. She, yeah, she's doing a lot of idol show. She's not. What am I talking about? I'm saying she's going on a lot of fashion show these days, and it's always strike me as weird that she didn't get to go on these fashion show when she was still in her group.
Yeah,
Because
I know.
I would have thought that
That's
Nogi being their
yeah, it's
hot
one of the
stuff.
sort of like negative elements of like actually being in a group, is that the most popular members will be the ones who get sent to do those kinds of things. Whereas like Eolin was always like like she's tall and she's got a striking face, so
Hmm.
like she's well suited to be a model, but she was never one of the members chosen to do modeling work when she was in Nogizaka, probably because the management never suggested her to people.
Yeah, which is always a missed opportunity in my opinion. I was always hoping that she would become one of the official models
Yeah.
among
Well,
the
that's the
rank
thing, it's
community.
like she could have become more popular as a member of Nogizaka if they'd given her this work, which she was clearly suited to.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on to Chiharu. Chiharu's doing really well these days, and the reason for that is kind of similar to Ichiki, because Chiharu is also quite good at academic study, and she was in what university was it again? I think it was Meiji.
Meiji,
But
maybe?
regardless, yeah,
So
regardless,
sorry, we can't remember which one it is, but like Chi-chan was in one of the
prestigious
yeah, one of the
universities.
prestigious universities of Japan, and
She
she
graduated from that.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
she continued her studies while she was in Nogizaka. She's just like very clever.
Hmm. And now that she graduated, she's accepted into Asahi Therapy, and I believe she's doing sport announcement. I'm not
Hmm.
too sure, but she's accepted into Asahi Therapy for sure, and she's doing some sort of announcing job, which is very, very prestigious in Japan. So that's very good for her.
Yeah, and I kind of I like I think my memory's failing here a little bit, but I'm pretty sure that Chi-chan produced some kind of like like non-fiction book while she was in Nogizaka as well.
I'm
I'm sorry because my memory is kind of failing here, but I'm almost completely certain that she did.
maybe she did, but I don't know about that.
Anyway,
I don't remember.
I almost feel a bit bad about bringing it up now, but yeah.
No
So
worries. Yeah, another thing I would like to mention about Chi Jiang before we move on is that she's a very good singer, and along with Iku Jiang and Himeka, the trio were very close because they were in the same school year group, and they're all very good singers. I guess I help out too. But one of my favorite moment from Chi Jiang was when she was in this karaoke thing in one of their 46-hour therapy, and she sang one of my favorite classic. She sang M by Princess, which is a girl band in Japan way back, and it was just so good. It's like that's something I definitely recommend people to check out if you haven't. It's on
hmm.
YouTube. Hmm.
So after them, there
Hmm.
is a group of three members who graduated all near the end of 2018, and those are Wakatsuki Yumi, Nojo Ami, and Kawago Hina.
Hmm.
So, like, these are all members who I think, yeah, like if you're a new member of, a new fan of Nogizaki, you'll still know all these members.
Hmm.
Um, but uh, like talking about what they sort of like will do in the future, it's like we're not quite sure because there hasn't not much time has passed yet. But
Hmm.
Wakatsuki, I think, has actually recently been in a couple of TV shows, has she not?
She been in the drama, the drama of all these people looking like dressed like school Yankees.
Hmm.
That one actually got very popular, so the fact that she got a role in there is really good. She's very she's like very valued by the director. The director's name is Fukuda. Fukuda had a lot of projects over the years, and it seems like he liked to include Wakatsuki in his project. So that's a good sign because Fukuda is doing quite well, and this drama that he produced was quite popular. He's going to make a movie on that same series actually, so maybe we will see Wakatsuki there. Wakatsuki is also going to be in the upcoming drama this coming season. I think she might be the female lead, although we will need a bit more information. But it's not a Fukuda project as far as I can tell. So it's good that she's not just getting job from Fukuda, she's also getting job from other production team. So I think Wakatsuki is doing decently, and she also had that Love Dubai thing going on, that thing that promote Dubai.
Yeah.
So she's doing great.
Yeah, and again, Wakatsuki was a member who was Wakatsuki. I think has kind of like actually always been fairly popular throughout most of her time in the group, but I think near the end she was starting to struggle a bit with third gen coming in because
Mm,
she'd like spent most of her career in the second row, hadn't she? And then she kind of got pushed back as
yeah.
more members started to come in. So I think also, like she's a member who I think has also had quite a lot of like health problems because I think specifically like her back, I think has sort of like she's had quite a lot of problems with it. And
Yeah.
I think, like sort of like dancing was starting to become quite painful and difficult.
Yeah, she does have some health problem, which is unfortunate because she's one of those members that really work hard. Like she will do her best 100% when
Yeah.
she does things. So I can see why there's problem if she have health problem when she's trying to do this to her best of her abilities. It's not very sustainable. So I mean, it's kind of unfortunate that someone popular and well like is graduating. It's graduated, but it's probably best for her health actually. So.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
like again, it kind of seems as though Wakatsuki seems as though she'll probably do fine after she's graduated. So I think a lot of fans have kind of like just accepted the reality that it might have been like slightly better for her.
hmm Yeah, and she do seem to be, like, it still seems like she will have her steady stream of jobs. And besides, even if she don't get drama acting gigs, she was decently prominent in musicals as well. So I'm sure she'll be doing fine.
Hmm.
Yeah. hmm
So moving on, like around the same time, Nojo Ami graduated.
hmm
And sort of like Nojo, I think, has kind of like become famous among Nogizaka fans as kind of like being one of the funniest members of the group.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Do you feel
Yeah, I think
John's? Yeah,
she's one of the funniest member in the group, and she's another thing she's a little bit famous for, I guess, or maybe not that famous for, but people really should know is that she was one of the lead singer of Nokidan,
yeah.
the band with Himeka. Himeka was also the lead singer actually. Himeka, Nojo, Asuka, Mai was their bass, I think,
hmm
and Mahito was their guitarist. And Maya is currently the keyboard person, but before her it was Serarin, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So sorry, Ami is kind of also like one of the best singers in Nogizaka. Probably, but like most people probably identify her as like being second best after Ike-chan. Or well,
Yeah,
even if you don't agree with that position, I don't feel like it's that controversial.
that
Um,
she's good at singing at least, and that's why she's one of the lead singer in Nokidan.
yeah. So like Ami has sort of like been in several musicals during her time in Nogizaka, and it seems as though that's like her career path after she's graduated.
I think so.
Yeah,
She haven't been able to appear. I mean, I'm not sure if she even looking for it, but she haven't been appearing in any drama. But she have a very steady stream of musicals that she appear in. So I guess that's her career path.
yeah.
hmm
Um, and in the same way, like Kawago graduated
hmm
a couple of days after Ami, and Kawago kind of like again like Kawago and Nojo were both members who sort of like like were popular with kind of like I think they sort of like had like a lot of goodwill from fans, but were never particularly popular or would sort of like spend most of their time in Undergirls.
hmm
But like Kawago is interesting because she's kind of like produced photo shoots for quite a lot of the other members, and they've always been very flamboyant, I guess. Kind of finding
Mm.
like difficult to find like an adjective, but like I think we're still kind of in the dark about what Kawago wants to do with her career, like after she's left Nogizaka, but like possibly modeling, possibly like modeling art direction. I have seen sort of like a few news things about Kawago modeling, not as many as Eolin, but like maybe enough to sort of suggest that might actually be a like decent future career for her.
If she can continue to do something in modeling, I think that'd be great. Personally, I really like those shoots she produced, mostly Marquee or
Yeah,
all of them in Marquee. Like every issue of Marquee, she will get someone from Noki and she'll produce their photo shoot Photoshop them, and they're usually they quite stand out. They're very very they're visually very interesting. Visually,
yeah.
they're very
The thing that I like
dynamic.
about the thing
hmm
that I like about Kawago's the shoots like Kawago produces is that um, like she has a kind of like distinct like it's hard to express this, but it's kind of like while the style in each of the shoots is sort of like very distinct and different and specific to each member,
hmm
there's a sort of like overarching quality to them that's sort of similar.
hmm
So,
Yeah,
like you can sort of identify them, but they're not samey, which I think is a very good thing.
yeah. Like you can tell they're produced by Carago, but you're right. They're quite different. There are different themes to each of them. I guess it's the way they stood out. Like each of these production that she made, they're very, very, a little bit, like, not quite in your face, but they catch your eye, I guess. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Yeah. So that's something I hope she can do more. And in fact, I think that's actually it's a good reflection of her characteristic. Throughout her Nogi career, she often tries to do things to stand out. So she's definitely an idol that don't stop trying. Unfortunately, she's never able to sustain the momentum she gained from some of these projects she done. Like, and she just never catch on fire and blew up. Like, that never happened. But she's definitely someone that's likable, talented, and hopefully we can see more from her.
Yeah, I mean, Kawago is only 21 as well, so I kind of feel like she has still got quite a lot of time to sort of like find something specific that she wants to do. Next member is someone that I think like everyone knows is Nishino Nanase.
Yeah.
So I think everyone knows Nanase to the extent which I think it's kind of pointless to talk about her time in Nogizaka, but like maybe we should talk about what we think she might do in the future, because Nanase is already like on TV.
Yeah.
You know, like she's already on TV presenting a show called Gouton Nouveau, which is, you know, like is kind of like is a sort of like show about female celebrities, which kind of like it's specifically it's like a lot of Japanese talk shows where, you know, like various like famous people will sort of like meet up and talk, but it's all women, which I think sort of like does make it quite unusual on Japanese TV. And she's been doing Lion no Gu Touch, you know, like, which is a sort of like, it's a, you know, like it's a sort of like show where people send in their sort of like videos and stuff, and I think she's been doing that for years now, right?
Yeah, that's sure been going on for a long time. I'm not sure specifically how long, but it's definitely been years. Yeah, I think if I'm to guess, I think she's a talent type, I think. She will continue to do a bit of talk show stuff, a bit of variety show stuff, and a bit of acting here and there. But I don't think she'll necessarily have a focus on anything like that.
Yeah. Like it does seem as though, you know, like being a sort of TV personality is what Nanase wants to do, like based on, you know, like the first few jobs she's had.
Yeah. I think that works for her. I think a lot of people like to just see her on TV, and she doesn't even need to like speak too much or try to catch people's attention. She just needs to be there and interact normally, and people like that. I think that works for her.
I think she's so easygoing that sort of like I think it makes her very, very easy to watch. You know, like Nanase has sort of like acted in the past, and I kind of think that she might pursue that kind of thing if like a good offer comes along. But I don't know whether that's what she wants to do, and it kind of feels as though the TV stuff, the sort of like TV variety stuff, might be more what she wants to go into.
Yeah. Does she strike you as a good actress, by the way?
I'm going to be honest, like, I can't appreciate Japanese TV shows full stop. And I kind of say that because I think there's something specific to the sort of like style of the acting that's in Asian TV shows, which kind of like, it feels when I watch like Asian dramas as though the acting is like theatrical. It feels quite a lot like a stage play that's been done on TV. And I kind of often feel when I'm watching Asian dramas as though people are sort of like playing to you know, like an audience in the theatre that isn't there. So people like tend to kind of like overact in a way they don't really need to.
Going on.
So when it sort of like comes to sort of like evaluating like the actual specific skill of Japanese actors, it's like I can't really do it. I don't know who would be good if they were sort of like acting in a way which I was more comfortable with.
Yeah, just to go on a little bit of a tangent, I think it might be having to do with the fact that musicals and stage play are very popular in
Yeah.
Japan for some reason, and a lot of people do have experience in those area, but the acting you need for stage play and musical isn't quite the same as being on film, because on film you can be more subtle.
Hmm.
You can be yeah, you don't need to be as dramatic as
But
being
yeah,
on
I think
musical
I think
stage
it's
play.
also a director problem. I think
Mm,
it's actually a director problem more than an actor problem, because I think directors are sort of like encouraging, like actors on TV to act as though,
hmm
like they're on a stage and everyone is sort of like sat 100 meters away. So unless
mm,
they sort of like physically emote, people aren't going to
hmm
see any of it.
mm. That's possible. And the reason I brought this up is because to be honest, Nanase don't strike me as the best actress within Nogi,
Hmm.
but while she was in Nogi, she is pushed to be the lead actress usually. Like, for example, in Hatsumoni Bema, she was the
And
protagonist for that baseball Nogi
Asahi
drama.
Nagu.
Yeah, and yeah, as Hainaku, she was the lead for that movie. And there was that drama long time ago, 49. Do you remember that one?
Hmm.
Yeah, where she played one of the potential love interests of the protagonist. And there was that video girl I too. Like, she's she's often pushed to be the lead actress, and I think that's a extension of Noki management pushing her as center, as ace. But I'm just curious whether that's something that will continue to happen now that she graduated.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, and also, moving on, we're going to talk a bit about the most recent graduate, which is Eto Misa.
hmm
Again, I think sort of like covering Misa's career in Nogizaka is kind of like a bit pointless, because I'm sure that even the newest fans will know who she is.
hmm
Um, I have no idea what Misa's going to do post
Yeah.
Nogizaka.
Yeah. She's quite well rounded, I think. She's a one of the more decent singer in Nogi. She have a long career in gravure. So she does some in Nogi obviously, but she was a gravure idol before that too.
Hmm.
And she also did a few musical. There's a recent one where she did it with Juna and Kubo. So she was also a radio host, and she's still a radio host actually for,
Hmm.
there's one where she talk with her economist, I believe, every week. So she's and if you watch Misa from Noki show, she's very good at communication. She's definitely a good host and a good communicator. So she's pretty well rounded. She can do a lot of things,
I
but
mean, what I'd say is kind of like, in terms of jobs that I think she's most suited to, I think
mhm.
presenter would be the job that she's most suited to. Whether
Mm,
that's the one she's actually going to end up doing, though, I don't really know, because I feel as though she has like various pathways like open to her. But unlike
mhm,
somebody like, because Nojo sort of like set out a kind of musical career before she left Noizaka,
mhm.
whereas I think Eto kind of doesn't have a specific career laid out that she's going into.
Actually, now that you mentioned that, a recent news is that she's going to become a regular co-host for one of Fuji Televi's show called like
Right.
Professional Baseball News, and it's a very good fit for her because not only is she a good communicator, but she is very interested in baseball.
Hmm.
That's one of her passion. In fact, a long time ago, she used to have her mini show on Rakuten's version of their streaming service with Nanze and Kijang. So yeah, I think hosting, like announcing, that might be the direction she's heading for.
Yeah, which kind of leads us on to that. There's two members who've announced graduation recently and will
Mm-hmm.
be graduating soon, and they are Ito Karin and Saito Yuri.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like I think we've got a sort of situation with similar to Misa where I don't really know what the two of them want to do in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Karin kind of like was on TV hosting a show about shogi,
Mm-hmm.
but her time on that ended, so I don't know whether she actually wants to even continue in show business.
Yeah, that's a question, and but she did got that solo commercial deal recently
Hmm.
with Asahi beer. I think it's Asahi, right?
Yeah, I think
Um,
so.
and to be honest, that really surprised me because I mean, beer is pretty big, and a solo deal with a beer company selling beer, that was something I didn't expect for Karin. Like
Hmm.
if you say there was a beer commercial with I don't know Misa or Mayang. Actually, Mayang, do you have a beer commercial?
Yeah,
But
might have.
that would surprise me. But Karin, that was a pretty big surprise. So despite the fact that her Shogi show is going to Hatsuki now, she did end up with her. I think it's because of her Shogi connection because I saw Shogi being on that beer commercial. So despite the fact that that's ending, if she do continue in entertainment, it's good to know she have a decent base to start with.
Yeah, I mean, like I think she, like I really like her, and I think she's got like a sort of like really good, like easygoing air to her, which means that I think like she was a presenter of the show, and I think she would make a good presenter, but like I just am completely in the dark about her future plans. So
Hmm.
I don't really know what to say about it other than kind of like I wish her well.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it's interesting because Karin is like an Idol fan,
Mm.
like, and she was like like she was one of Kazumin's fans
Yeah.
before she joined the group. So I kind of feel like, like more than some of the other members we talked about, I kind of feel like becoming an idol was like a big like aspiration for her in the first place.
Mm.
So like I'm not quite sure what she wants to do afterwards now that she's kind of like decided that she doesn't want to be an idol anymore.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like so. Sorry, yeah. Again, like I think she's someone with like a lot of potential to do like various things. I just don't know what it is that she's going to do when she decides that the time has come.
Yeah. I mean that she's very capable at least. So I'm not pessimistic at least. I think if whatever she wants to do, I think she will be able to do it well.
Yeah, I mean she's got. I think Kadin has got like she's got a lot of she's a very practical person.
Hmm.
She's very hardworking, so I'm sure she will find something to do.
Hmm.
Um, just might not be in show business. That's all.
Yep.
And Yuri Yutan, I don't know. I don't know what she's going to do either.
Yuri is a even bigger mystery for me because she's been doing she's been doing a radio. It's called like the Nutty Radio Show,
Hmm.
and she's been doing that for a long time. But she's also ending that, just like how Cutting is ending. Um, Actually, I'm not sure if she's ending that, but my impression is that she is. So if she's ending that, I'm not sure like what will
Yeah.
she be doing.
And again, like I kind of think that like Yutan was kind of like one of the members who I think was like more enthusiastic about the idea of being an idol in the first place rather than sort of being an idol in order to go and do something in the future. So
Mm,
like again, like I'm not quite sure she's going to stay in show
hmm.
business because I think that being an idol was a bigger deal for her in the first place.
Possibly. Yeah, and she doesn't really seem to have anything to if she do continue on showbiz, it's not very obvious what she is going to stand on. Like for cutting, I mentioned there's the show giving that spring into her Asahi beer commercial, so that's great for her. But I don't know what Yuri is going to do. Like it isn't really obvious. The only thing she have right now is Nokiego, which I imagine she's going to graduate from. So yeah, I don't know what she's doing in the future.
I mean, it's kind of like I think she's a very sort of like pleasant, charming person. So I kind of think that like again, I think there is a lot of things that she could potentially do on TV if like she starts getting good offers. But like I don't even know if that's what she wants to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I don't know. I guess all we can do is look forward to what she ends up doing.
Yep.
And that is every single graduated member we've covered now.
I'm impressed we covered everyone, actually.
Yeah. So, there's that. Plus, like, we kind of have an announcement for people in that me and Rusty have, like, been talking things over. We've kind of, like, we found it a little bit challenging to keep coming up with topics for the podcast, so we're thinking about moving it to a weekly show instead, and like talking about various things that occur to us during the week instead, because it might be a more simple way of thinking of things to talk about. We've had a few people sort of like ask us about like becoming like a more sort of like weekly show talking about things as they happen. So I guess we might sort of like see how people react to this, and if like people are positive, I think that's the way we might go in the future. But like on that note, thank you for listening to us talk about all the graduated members from Nogizaka. It's like I think I enjoyed this because I've really got a lot of fondness still for most of these members.
Yeah.
It's like like some like like Rarin and Mai Mai, who I just absolutely love. So like it was like really nice to talk about how they've done really well after they've graduated. So yeah, like have you got anything you want to say just before we finish up?
No, not really. I'm very glad we got to talk about these, and although we spent like an hour and maybe an hour and a half talking about them, like there's so much to say about each of these members. So yeah, I'm really glad we got to have a short summary. And I'm sure if you're a new fan, you're just getting to know them, it's helpful to learn a bit about them, and it's going to be very fun to learn more about these people.
Yeah. So it's goodbye from me, John.
And from me, Rusty.